Well, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to another webinar Wednesday hosted by Cal State Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. I'm the director of the center, Kelly Bearden, and we're here on August 14th, 2024 to be talking about some Borel fire relief. So let's get started. And today's program is on August the 14th. So what's up today, August 14th? Well, we're going to have the focus today. About everything is going to be on the relief efforts happening now in the Kern River Valley from the Borel fire, and some of the things that we know, some of the things that we think are going to happen, and just some of the resources that are going to be made available. And we have two great guests to help us get that information out to you today. So the important thing from today is that we're still the beginning stages of the recovery. And we're trying to provide you the earliest information to assist those that may have some questions and some needs and a lot of other questions that might be coming up. But again, we're at the very beginning of this. And so we'll let you know what's happening now and what we can maybe expect down the road. We'll give you a quick update on some other resources that might help you throughout this particular process. On Webinar Wednesday, we have a couple of normal features, our economic corner and our capital quarter. We'll just touch very briefly on both of those. In our capital quarter, we'll be discussing some of the different disaster loan options that you have available today. And also, our tools and resources. We'll go through some of those. Your questions will be taken and we'll have them live after the presentation. So please go to the Q&A box if you have any questions. All resources that we discussed today will end up in the chat box, courtesy of our producer, Maureen. And today we will have a very simple poll question. It's kind of related to the topic today. So let's jump in and have our poll question, which is going to be a two-parter today. And it is going to be on these disaster topics. So, a little bit of background on our poll question is, there are disaster declarations and there are also disaster loans that are available. We'll differentiate those later on. But right now, just a simple little easy poll question. And the first one of two is going to be, what was the last disaster loan option available in Kern County? So was it late 2023, the salmon fishery closures on the Pacific Ocean? Was it the winter storms that affected us in 2023? Or was it COVID-19? And you'll see our second group of questions are right below that have the same answers, but it's slightly different, that has the last declared federal disaster in Kern County. So again, what we're looking at on question number one is the last disaster loan that's available. And in this there are both working capital loans if your business is impacted by the disaster, to where you don't even have to live in the disaster area if it's impacting your business. And then there are also those federal loans that are available or could be available, not available yet, that are for physical damage. And that is the difference between one and two. So we have just two simple little questions. Which was the last disaster loan available in Kern County? And it's closing. It's not even closed yet, done yet. A little hint there. Was it the salmon fisheries, the winter storms, or COVID-19? And the second part, the last declared disaster. Two different things. We'll differentiate those later on. But right now, we do have 73% of you participating. That is fantastic. I am going to give you one last second, and we're going to go ahead and end the poll. And my little bit of a winter storms, 55%. That is true for the number two. That was the last federally declared disaster, and that would be an SBA and FEMA related disaster for Kern County. So that is number two, 64% of you got that correct. But the topic question, number one, which was the last disaster loan that's available and still presently open, is the salmon fishery closures. A little bit of a trick question, but that is available if you have a working capital business. And that is not really something we're talking to a lot of people about, as you could imagine. The winter storms, yes, there was a lot of action earlier this year and going into most of last year from the winter storms that impacted California. And then, of course, the big one, COVID-19. So thank you for sharing. We'll go into the differences on why we have a salmon fishery closure and also a declared disaster a little bit later. So we're going to move right along here, and moving right along, we will actually jump into our economic corner very quickly. And just a little quick update on some of the general economic news that might be impacting your business, your household, or whatever. And good news today was inflation was down last month. Was down, some of it below the 3% threshold, the 3% mark. And the good news for that is it means that likely interest rates are going to be cut. So if you have any variable loans, we're really looking for the Federal Reserve to potentially cut interest rates at their September meeting. The other good news is the economy remains steady. There is potentially a recession threat that persists, something that we've heard the last several years, right? The last 2 or 3 years after the little recession we had with COVID. 25% of consensus economists out there think right now that there are a lot of factors in line and there could be a recession on the horizon, but 3 out of 4 say no. So that's all good. The US employment rate is over 4% now. And the key factor there is that small businesses continue to drive the new jobs, something that is completely different from about 18 months ago when small businesses had so much difficulty trying to find staffing. So it's great if you are a member of the SBDC and a member as a client by signing up and having a free account with the SBDC, and it accesses all these tools to you. We have the Live Plan, which is an intuitive, interactive business planning software where we work with clients on generating a business plan for their particular business. We have a capital assessment form and also a cash flow forecast in the toolbox. Our newest tool we aren't even talking much about is called Vertical IQ. It is available to our advisors and provides great demographic and industry analysis for your particular business. Other tools are located there, and to access a lot of these tools and no-cost advising from experienced and seasoned professionals at the SBDC, just go online, Google CSUB SBDC, and sign up today. Also coming up, a great opportunity for those that have been saying, I want to start a home daycare business. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And great news, a 12-week online course is starting on September 4th. $1,000 in startup grants available. It's really great because you get through the detailed licensing processes and also learn the business aspects of running a daycare business. Great organization we work with at the SBDC Nurture, and your Nurture coach can be reached for more information. Either text and learn more or call 833-241-3994. Okay, moving along now, getting on topic, is going to be Jim Damian, who is the Chief Economic Development Officer for Kern County. And that's a pretty much new and critical role within the Chief Administration Office, designed for regional diversification, targeting, attracting, and retaining new business ventures along with quality job creation. An entrepreneur, great having an entrepreneur in this position. Jim founded Stria, an acclaimed digital transformation business that used technology and continuous improvement to reduce burdens, was the Bakersfield 2022 Large Business of the Year. And in October of 22, Stria was acquired by the now defunct Bitwise Industries in a private equity-backed venture. Jim is an entrepreneur. In his spare time, he likes to work out a little bit with this Ironman triathlon. He's finished it twice. I know there's another one coming up soon. Bakersfield 2021 Business of the Year, Business Person of the Year. I think that's the Bakersfield Beautiful beautiful Bakersfield Awards, and is a first-generation college grad, San Diego State, master's from Cal Berkeley. Jim, take it away.
Kelly, that sounds great. Thank you for the nice intro. That's good. My mother might have written that one, so thank you for including all the headlines, my friend. I appreciate you. Appreciate being on with you and your team and Mr. Falk and those of you who are dialed in. It's good to see you. I'm going to share a screen and I'll talk a little bit about what we're up to at the county, how it relates to what's happening with the Borel fire, and give you just a few tools and tips that may be useful. As Kelly articulated earlier in the call today, it's very early in the process. And so some of you and some of the panelists today may have information that I've excluded. So I appreciate the grace. As Kelly mentioned, I'm a former entrepreneur, ran a local tech company for about 18 years before we sold it. And so I've navigated a number of disasters, man-made and natural. And so I'll just start out with a word of encouragement for the entrepreneurs on the call, whether you're an entrepreneur in your own company or what we like to call an intrapreneur. You have an entrepreneurial spirit and you're managing or working in another organization, whether you're the owner or not. I think especially in today's climate, and I think it's even more important when we're at in the midst of a disaster like the Borel fire. Remember that entrepreneurial grit was, and I think, in my opinion, will remain your biggest resource. So we're going to show you some links, some phone numbers, but those of you who are entrepreneurial as owners or entrepreneurial as leaders, as entrepreneurial as staff in your organizations, remember the hustle, the grit, the grind, the figuring it out, whether there's a disaster or not, that is always your biggest resource. So leverage your resources, learn what you can, but remember the grit and determination and resiliency is what carries us all through. A couple notes on the Borel fire. So as you know, it was massive. It was almost 60,000 acres. It's contained at about 91%. There was, as you all know, many evacuations, structures damaged, structures destroyed. The town of Havilah was ravaged, and again, just a huge disaster. We understand at this point that the fatality count is remaining zero, so we're grateful for that. We had fire resources from all over the state, risking life and limb to protect families, property, businesses, and so we're grateful for the success and for the safety that was experienced during this disaster. So those are a couple highlights. I will tell you, as of today, we do know that the evacuation order has been lifted. So the process of returning back is started. The road closures related to the fire are open. The Canyon 178 is open. There are still delays due to not just the fire impact, but other things going on. So if you want to see details on the delays, you can go to our Public Works website. The Roads Department maintains a good list of what's happening there. So that's kind of the overview, but this was a massive fire. I wanted to share a couple quick resources, and this can be sent out. Maureen has a copy of this, so it can be sent out to the group. One of the best places to start if you're trying to figure out how to return or what your options are, or you're calling for a friend, or you want to know some information, that 873-2660 number, that's the best place to get information. That automated and live phone system can connect you with all the different county departments. And please bear in mind, we've got almost 9,000 employees at the County of Kern, dozens and dozens of departments. So we all try and collaborate and communicate every day. But that phone number there is a great place to go. The sheriff's office, if you have missing persons issues or things like that, that's another good non-emergency. For emergencies, we always say call 911. So that stands true here. But these are a couple links that I think would be useful. You're in the SBDC ecosystem, so that's always a great starting point when you start to think about loans. For those of you, whether it's a natural disaster loan or a traditional business loan, SBDC is the county of Kern's partner for facilitating and liaisoning with state, federal, and private loans through banks. So I always encourage people to start with SBDC, and you're there today. So that's the link to the site, but you've got Kelly on the line so you can answer some questions. I think Kelly will talk a little bit more about what we hope that the SBA does a disaster declaration, and that'll open up some new expedited funding opportunities for businesses that were impacted by this disaster. That hasn't been declared yet, but we're hoping it will be. California iBank has some loans. I wanted to put that there as well. You're going to hear a little bit more from Kelly about an AltaOne loan program that is on the emergency loan program that is a result of this fire. That's a local credit union. So I would make sure I have their information handy if you do want to get a loan from a private bank, credit union rather. And then you'll see a flyer a little bit later today. There's going to be the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources group. It's a statewide University of California organization is going to be doing a post-fire workshop. And so we'll have a flyer for that here in a few minutes. So at a high level, these, again, this can be shared out to our participants. Maureen has a copy of the slide deck, but these are sort of the fast facts around how to get assistance right now. So I wanted to share this. And if there are questions about this, we can take them in just a few minutes. But that's one important slide. And we're going through this terrible disaster as a community. Nobody's been impacted more than the people in Kern River Valley. We're all in it together. Some of us are just closer to the epicenter of this terrible disaster. But the work on the business side, when we talk about the economy, that remains our North Star, rather, remains to be in the best place in the state of California to start and grow a business. We've got a lot of work to do to get there. In the midst of a disaster, we're thinking more along the lines of recovery. We're thinking about basic needs, food, shelter, safety, power, returning back to your homes, returning back to your businesses, what to do with the ash, what to do with debris. Those are all questions that you're going to answer for yourself based on some of these resources. But just know that will happen. We will recover as a community, and we will get back on the track of all of Kern County, all 8,000 square miles, being part of this rich economic fabric where we can say we are the best place to start and grow a business. So we're making progress every day. One of the things that's still going, we're part of a group that was funded by the state of California for a $500,000 grant. It's a neighbor-to-neighbor economic development grant. And we talked to our 5 participants during this tragedy of the Borel fire and said maybe we should push pause on some of these activities. And there was never a thought about pushing pause. We are pivoting. It's going to be more fire readiness, maybe fire recovery events. So the participants right now are Kern River Valley Art Association, Riverstone Wellness, Sierra Said Spaces, and Hopester. These are groups active in the KRV every day. They were a big part of the opening of the skate park that just happened a few weeks ago. But this economic development is happening as we speak. And even in the midst of a disaster, we still know we need to be connected. We need to be sharing resources to navigate this and then get to the other side and continue to grow. So that's an example. Again, we will rebuild things. And we have an acute focus in our department on making the permit process as easy as possible. So being the best place in the state to start and grow a business, being a place that can recover from natural and man-made disasters quickly means being able to get permits to build things quickly. So that's one of our key priorities, is to making sure when people do build, whether it's a rebuild after something like a terrible fire or a ground up construction project, this is an important fact of what we're working on, which is to be the best place to get permits issued. But we've got a long way to go. We're at the front end of this journey. If you want more information, that's at the website here in the QR code. So I wanted to share my contact information, always available, cell phone, email. You can give me a shout if there's something I can do for you. But at a high level, that is a summary of what we're observing from the Borel fire disaster. Those are a few of the resources that we've got. Again, there's a lot of resources. The trick and the task sometimes is finding them. So those are a few. You're going to hear about a few more. I'll leave it there, Kelly, unless you want me to dive in on anything else.
Great, Jim. Thank you so much. And I know you mentioned some great things. We are at the beginning of this. There will be plenty of more information, and sometimes the process is a little slower than we like. We'll talk a little bit about the process. But one thing that I think you mentioned, Jim, that I really liked was that if this is declared an SBA disaster, that there is disaster planning and resiliency that can be coming from this as well. So whereas you might have not have been directly impacted, but maybe you have a lot of need for defensible space around your business, around your residents. And if we do end up with this happening to be a SBA declared disaster, which we don't right now, so there's nobody to call right now, on nowhere to look on the internet on this. So if that does end up going that direction, then there could be funds available to help with the planning process moving forward. So that's great. Thank you, Jim. Okay, our next presenter is going to be Aaron Falk, who is the CEO of the Kern Community Foundation, grew up in Bakersfield, attended Santa Barbara, University of California, and of course, a runner, being from California State University, Bakersfield. Worked for a decade as a congressional staffer, returned to Bakersfield in 2017, having worked for U.S. Representative Kevin McCarthy throughout his various stints in office, and really here to give us a great lowdown on what nonprofits and what resources are available for nonprofits. Let's bring in Aaron Falk. Aaron, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you to the team at SBDC, and it's always fun to follow Jim. I'm going to immediately start by stealing smart things that Jim said. Big picture, grit, couldn't agree more. This is going to be a long haul for recovery. Persistence is important. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. The slogan, "Press on," has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. Now, I had a chance to go up to the Kern River Valley several times since the fire started and see firsthand what the recovery process looks like, and especially how people are accessing the aid. And it was so encouraging to see the way that the community has rallied up there, the way that Kern County has set up a base of operations through the local access center to make sure that the aid that was being given was getting to the people most impacted. And then, of course, you've seen the wide community support all across the county. There have been people either giving money or time or donating goods or putting together fundraisers. I truly think that's why Kern County is the best place in the county and the best place in the state of California to start and run a nonprofit. Is the way the people in the government come together and businesses come together here is very strong, very good for Kern County. Now, as we are moving into the post-fire world, we're at just over 90% contained. It doesn't seem to be approaching other populated areas. So we can take a breath and try to figure out what is the response going to be. From the philanthropy side, we view the natural disasters as having three distinct phases. You've got your immediate relief, which is while the disaster is going on, and maybe the next month or so right after that, where it's, okay, how do we take care of the humans, animals, and environment that's been impacted? Does somebody have shelter tonight? Do they have food and water? Do they have access to medicine they might need? If there's weather conditions, is there air conditioning, or frankly, even ice? Ice has been a big demand. And that can be a little more challenging because on top of these people having lost their homes and everything they own, you've got challenges getting stuff in and out of the region. There's construction on the road. People may not have a vehicle to get to where the relief center is, things like that. When they first stood up the food aid, it was running out of Ridgecrest, which is, maybe an hour and change drive from Lake Isabella. So to get the food relief, you had to be able to get to Ridgecrest. They've since solved that problem, but I'm just demonstrating how challenging this is right out of the gate. After we've solved the immediate need problems of the relief, we move into the midterm recovery. Recovery is how you get life back to normal living. People are able to go to school, people are able to go to work, people are able to move around the valley as they need to without having to travel through a disaster area. That can take a year, maybe even 2 years. And the whole goal is to get life somewhat back to normal. It'll never be exactly like it was before the fire. And then when we're looking at that after the immediate recovery or the midterm recovery, it's okay, well, what does the long-term rebuilding and resilience look like? And so that can be fixing the structures, fixing the roads, if there's issues with power grid or heating delivery, natural gas, things like that. How do you rebuild the society that was there, the other support structures, if your churches were damaged or the other community leaders had to leave, how do they come back and get reintegrated? And then for our case, how do you make the forest more resilient? How do we prevent this from happening again? That's the big goal. And it's important when you're thinking about either if you have a nonprofit, how that's going to get involved, if you're a business that wants to support the efforts, or if you're just a person who has a big heart and maybe a big wallet and wants to be helpful, you think about which phase of the relief, recovery, and rebuilding do you want to be involved in? Because those are 3 distinct lines of effort. You'll never be able to satisfy any of those lines of effort completely. So it's not, I wouldn't worry about, oh, well, relief seems to be fine, so let's focus on recovery. I would say play to your strengths. If your organization or you are plugged in up there and you know who needs help and you've got the ability to deliver, a case of dog food to somebody who's taking care of 6 dogs, just go do that if that's your strength. And if you are somebody who is a general contractor and you want to offer your services consulting as we're rebuilding, then do that and be part of the long-term rebuilding and recovery. So I would say play to your strengths if you want to get involved. There are a lot of great organizations up there doing work. We listed a few just a minute ago, and I'm excited to announce here, this is a live announcement that Kern Community Foundation is granting $3,000 to Hopesters, who will be passing out prepaid Visa cards to people who are impacted. So keep an eye out for Hopesters. If you're up there in the valley, get a hold of them. They're going to have another set of gift cards from us. And this is for the immediate relief. So, I mean, it's so hard to decide, okay, well, do people need diapers? Do people need blankets? Do people need water? What do people need? Rather than bringing up a pallet of supplies, we're saying, hey, here's a gift card, go solve your problem as best as you can. And we'll try to find a way to fund more of these. So I'm happy to announce that we're going to give that to Hopesters. We've already made a few other announcements for other organizations up there. Hopesters is I don't want to speak for them. They are informally associated with KRV Bridge. KRV Bridge is who we've been working with the closest, and Karen Zuber up there has been a real hero. Great organization, and they've been a great center of gravity along with the county to make sure that we are sharing the lists of which properties have been damaged and how badly they've been damaged, especially as that list updates. So that way we know that the right people are getting aid. And that brings me to, as you're giving, what are some best practices and the best way to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck? As a general rule, I'm giving money, and I would encourage you to give money or donate items to local organizations or a national or international organization that has an established local presence. Because what you don't want to do is give to an organization who promises they're going to spend the money to deal with our disaster, and then another disaster comes up somewhere, and that takes all of the media attention away. And so they take the money that you had given for Kernville or Kern River Valley, and now all of a sudden it's going towards a hurricane somewhere. Don't get me wrong, all of these people need help, but we need the money that we give in Kern County to stay in Kern County. We made a gift early on to Red Cross. Red Cross has a local staff. They're plugged in on the ground. Same with United Way, another strong organization. It's got a good local footprint. But you can also look at Hopesters. You can look at the Kern River Valley Arts Association. These are some great places that are doing work, and they literally live in this community. And they not only are they have a vested interest in making sure that you get maximum impact for your dollars, but I mean, they live there. They are plugged in with the people. They know who's impacted. and they're going to know what those immediate needs are. And you can always give through us. We have a couple of different funds that we've activated. One is for the immediate relief, and that's what we've been using to grant out, these things like the gift card money. We donated money that went towards buying $3,000 worth of toys to give to children who had just lost everything. And we're going to have another big announcement here in the next day or two. I can't get out ahead of that one, but it's going to be a good one, so stay tuned. But you can go to our website, kernfoundation.org, or you can get a hold of me. I'm easy to find. I'm Aaron at kernfoundation.org, or you can call us at 325-5346. We also have a long-term resiliency fund, which goes to fund projects to do some active management within the forest around these communities, or for long-term reconstruction projects. If a community structure was destroyed, we've got ways to help with that. So on a closing note, I just want to say thank you guys and gals, everybody, for being here and looking into helping the support that comes out of Kern County. Every time one of these things happens, like the tragedy is horrible, and then the response just like it gets me. And it's because of how great the people are in Kern County. So again, thank you all very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people have offline with my info.
Fantastic. Good stuff, Aaron. Thank you so much. One thing that I think that is important to bring up is we're going to be talking about the resources that we know that are available. I haven't heard of a GoFundMe yet in the KRV. There could be potentially that going on. But if anybody knows any resources that we haven't talked about, or even now's even a good time to do that, throw them in the chat. If there are other resources or other good things happening in the community, let's share that. Okay, well, thank you so much, Aaron. Appreciate that. So this was mentioned a little bit earlier, and this is the Borel post-fire workshop that's coming up on September 12th. And I think it's going to be an outstanding event. It's going to be at the Senior Center, and really a good half day in the morning. A lot of different organizations, a lot of different resources that are going to be available. A lot of the stuff that we talk about at the Small Business Development Center is related to business. And business and actually farm and ranching operations are separate, oftentimes separate. They're handled by USDA. So USDA is definitely getting in front of this thing. And other organizations, you see some great organizations that are sponsoring this. Kern Fire Safe Council, really. I chaired a Fire Safe Council, do some great work. Good time to know more about what they do and what they're going to be doing after the fire. So just looking at what's going to be happening as far as USDA and a lot of the other resources coming up on the 12th of September, seems like a great place to be. So I wanted to share that with you. Some of the other community resources, Jim mentioned the AltaOne Credit Union program. They have a particular program. Before I learned about the last slide, we were going to talk a little bit about USDA because they have a history of offering, assistance for pretty much for farmers and livestock producers and others. So from what I'm understanding, and I don't really have my finger on the pulse, but a lot of ranch land was burned, and a lot of ranchers were impacted, as well as a few farmers. Also, this was last week, but it was good to see Supervisor Peters get involved, and he had a fundraiser downtown at the Rooster Honky Tonk. It had a good local KRV band there, and a lot of people show up. So really, it was really a really nice event, really good to see people show up, and really hope to see a lot more of that. And again, please add to the chat if you know of any other programs that are going on, and we'll gladly mention those before we leave here today. So we did mention the AltaOne program, and it is pretty much designed to assist members that are living in Havilah, Bodfish, and Lake Isabella, surrounding areas that might have been impacted, and a few different products that they have. They have a bridge loan. Affected individuals can apply for a bridge loan. This is up to $5,000 at reduced rates, so a reduced interest rates, and no payments required the first 90 days. So while you sort out maybe insurance claims or potentially any disaster-related monies or other monies that become available, a bridge loan can kind of bridge that gap and get you over the hump and to that next place. So up to $5,000 reduced rates. Can be used for a lot of uses, temporary housing, repairs, deductibles, and other urgent needs. And also loan assistance. They have loan assistance where they're streamlining payment deferrals. So if you already have an existing loan with AltaOne and you have been impacted significantly by this disaster, then streamline, payment deferment process and possible avoiding late fee assistance. So you can actually visit a branch or you can call AltaOne at 800-433-9727. So a little bit now about the disaster recovery process. I don't want to get too far in front of myself because I've had a tendency to do that in the past disasters. We were on the ground for the 2016 Erskine Fire. I'm elated to hear that there are still no fatalities in this fire. Unfortunately, we did have fatalities in the Erskine Fire. The Erskine Fire was a SBA disaster declaration that came out of that. SBA came into the community in the KRV in 2016 and set up an office. Spent quite a bit of time up in that office working with, and this is one of the rare instances where the United States Small Business Administration works with homeowners and renters. And the majority of the disaster loans that they do are going to be in that particular area, other than the small businesses that we work with. A couple different small business type of loans, but let's just go to the process, what is going on right now. So after the disaster occurs, an assessment is done of the damage, and that is done by federal, state, and also county officials. And generally, you will see county and state Office of Emergency Services that are in the community assessing the damage. Then an evaluation is made from that survey to determine if additional resources are needed for the community. When that happens, the state then needs to invite the federal partners in, and in the federal partners, if the state assessment leads to the federal declaration, and then also we see homeowners, renters, and businesses of all size able to apply for physical disaster loans. That is going to be, in this case, if you were damaged by fire. But also businesses located anywhere in Kern County that are impacted, and that's small businesses, small cooperatives, nonprofits, mostly small private nonprofits of any size can apply for economic injury loans. And those are where your business has been impacted. So whereas you might not have suffered any physical damage, any physical disaster, what might have happened is you might have had a customer who did. Maybe they're 100% your customer. Well, let's go back on the economic injury disaster loan. Say in the KRV, you were a middleman, a wholesaler of salmon products. So maybe your business was to go to the Central Coast and to 2 or 3 times a week load up on salmon and bring it back to the San Joaquin Valley, Sierra foothills, the Eastern Sierra Range, and sell that particular ware. Well, your business can be damaged significantly, and there are working capital loans for those actual economic injury disasters. So those are the two processes. But really, it's the main process of actually after the disaster occurs is going through that assessment, doing the evaluation before we get a declaration. We very well might have a federal SBA disaster. Also, they'll be looking at seeing if it is a FEMA disaster. So one of those two things, after seeing the Erskine Fire here, I'm compelled to at least speculate at this time that we are likely going to see an SBA disaster. But hey, that's what I do on Webinar Wednesday. So, But right now, neither of those products are available. It has not been a declared disaster area. So we'll wait and see, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks that happens. SBA will come to town, and then that is what you can do. You can go see potentially some relief there. So our role at the Small Business Development Center is to help small businesses and to help residents and individuals with the disaster loan applications. If I suffered a loss, either a physical loss, or I think that I have a business that's going to be significantly impacted, and for 3 months I'm not going to earn any sales or revenues or profit, then I would start getting maybe some of the information available. Generally, if there is an SBA disaster, the first course of recourse is through any insurance proceeds that you might receive. And whereas the SBA can come in with loan options, unfortunately, it's not like a universal insurance policy. It's not like an insurance policy for all. And that is, it would be great if that was the case. But obviously, you're going to be made whole by any insurance proceeds that you have. But I know also in rural communities, it's very tough on keeping insurance, particularly fire insurance. So, if you've had a loss, I would start trying to gather as much information so you can do it as quickly as possible, and maybe get some assistance from SBA or other resources if this is a declared disaster down the road. So then also what we try to do is we try to work with individuals working on whatever resources that we have out there. You heard from a couple of great resources today, but kind of working and leveraging the resources that are available. So maybe there's that bridge loan available from AltaOne, and maybe that there is assistance available to where you can get another type of small business loan or something. So it's really kind of leveraging any resources and anything that you receive. And then there's the emergency response plan, but I would really like to say again, the sales recovery and diversifying sales streams after you get through this is really something that's important as well. And please don't forget to think about if this process happens. If we do end up with an SBA declared disaster, think about the funds that are available for disaster planning and making your property more resilient against future disasters. We like to say at the SBDC that, if this is a disaster loan area, disaster loans aren't necessarily for everyone. The benefits are that you can actually receive working capital for the business to keep your business moving forward. You can receive benefits from any long-term suffering that you have from the disaster. And that could be, the impacts of the actual physical disaster and fire. And what is available are long-term, low interest rates. And, it's really kind of 30 years. And generally the interest rates can vary by disaster, but generally it's a 30-year, 3.75% interest rate that is fixed over the entire 30 years of that lifetime. And also one other benefit that SBA has in this particular program is if you have an existing loan in place and you really don't want to get rid of, say, a mortgage loan on the property, the SBA can come in and they can, with that low interest rate long-term loan, they can subordinate and go into a secondary position, either a second or a third position. Now, some of the negatives that disaster loans are, and that's just the nature of being the word loan, is that they're still loans. And really, it's really doesn't add anything necessarily to a growing business to get you back to where you were, hopefully, and you're carrying debt that's going to impact profitability down the road. So those are some of the impacts and some of the issues that we have moving forward. So also, they are unique, whereas SBA disaster loans are direct from the government. Most of the SBA loans that we see are loans that are made by other financial institutions and are guaranteed by the SBA. But these are direct from the government. In businesses of any size are eligible for the funds if they've had a loss. Nonprofits, schools, and charities are also eligible. small businesses and small agricultural cooperatives and most private nonprofits, as we mentioned earlier, are actually eligible for economic injury loans. So mentioned kind of the interest rate and kind of a few things going forward. This is the old school disaster loan application. Everything is unabated now and has gone to the computer, so you can actually apply online. You can't yet, though, because it has not been declared a disaster. Once it is a disaster, there will be other information. This loan is actually underwritten, so there will be, criteria for applying. And, one thing is really demonstrating the fact, and this is really where the SBDC can provide a lot of guidance, and that's demonstrating the fact that you have a particular business loss from an economic injury perspective. And again, that is, let's say your business doesn't generate sales for the next 6 or 8 months, but you had a very viable business beforehand. How do you keep the doors open? How do you keep the resources moving forward and actually keep the business going while you sort out the resiliency of getting back in business and getting back to your customers? So these are all kind of things that you'll need, and your SBDC advisor can help you. If it is declared a disaster, SBA will likely have personnel in the KRV to assist individuals. Again, we're still too soon at that point. We're not a disaster yet, so do not go to look for these at this time, but start preparing for it. Be prepared, including potentially even working on your personal financial statement, which will be one of the requirements. Okay, so a little bit of additional information there. 20% or more submit recent tax returns, and etc. So that's a little bit what we have and where we can help at that time. Let's go and see. I think most of our questions so far have showed up in the chat. I do not see any questions being asked at this time. But let's see. No open questions. So going back to the chat box, let's take a stroll through the chat box. And again, Maureen, it provides a lot of different resources from what we talked about earlier. And there's a comment on, please consider Salvation Army. Attention, Lake Isabel Service Extension. Yes, it would be a great place to donate and really know that you're really getting your resources into the hands, as they have been feeding local needs and also during the Borel fire. So yes, the Salvation Army would be a great place to donate if you're looking to place resources in that particular region. More information, and Aaron, thank you for letting me know that GoFundMes are generally not tax deductible, and really makes sound advice to go through the Kern Community Foundation on a lot of this information. We have the contact information for the Salvation Army and their extension, and a few of the things that they're doing is office and food giveaways Monday and Friday from 9 to 12. That is fantastic. Is there a way we can drop 2 PDFs about USDA programs into the chat? Absolutely. That is something that you can definitely do. And really, we're going to see, I think USDA is going to see some losses with the ranches, particularly. So yeah. And, we will be back on Webinar Wednesday, probably before 9/12, We're generally on every week or every other week now. It's summertime, every other week. So we will continue to provide updates as they come along, updates on the SBA disaster. And if that is declared a disaster, we will be back for more information there. Some more questions coming up are, great question. Who takes the lead in obtaining the disaster declaration, SBA or FEMA? Well, it is done through that process of assessment, and I'm actually looking to see what the size and the scope is. And then if the state invites which we totally anticipate to happen, at least I do, if the state invites the SBA or invites the federal resources, that it usually is centered through FEMA. FEMA is generally on site for larger disasters. FEMA is there for, oftentimes tornadoes and hurricanes where a large swath of the community and residential housing are wiped out. Not that 233 structures is not nothing to sneeze at. I'm kind of going off of the last time, and I know it's been 8 years since the Erskine Fire, and the Erskine Fire was reviewed by FEMA and it was made an SBA disaster. But again, it's all this assessment, and it's really too early to tell. I will let people do their jobs and do their assessment and figure out the damages and the resources needed to rebuild the community, and see if it's going to be FEMA, which is a program that has more grants than the SBA program. So it is usually the desired one when they come into a community. So I see that is our last question of the day. So barring no other questions, what I'm going to do is slide a little bit forward, and basically we've shared that particular slide. I guess we're going to wrap it up. Again, great information. Jim Damian, Aaron Falk, if people need to consider a place to put some donations, the Kern Community Foundation has already done several programs there. And it will continue to look for opportunities. It has a big announcement coming. So Jim, you got something to add? Give me something to add.
Just saying thanks, Kelly. Thanks for pulling us together. It's every week you and the team do a great job. No matter what the topic is, you always rally. So just wanted to say thanks. Good to see you. Good to see Aaron, be on the panel with him, and good to see all the participants. So we'll all keep on keeping on, and look forward to next week. So thanks.
Fantastic. And what we will be doing is on future webinar Wednesdays during the first introduction area, regardless of the topic, even if it's on capital, accessing capital or marketing or whatever, we will be providing information and details, the latest information that we have at the time. We will be talking in detail once, or if, I should say if, there is a federal declaration for this disaster. So there will be a lot of times that we're going to be on. Every time we'll be probably talking about this for the next few months at least. So, a lot of great things that hopefully are going to be coming down the pipe to assist and help people throughout this disaster. So that's going to wrap us up for today. For Maureen Busher-Dang and Jim Damian and Aaron Falk, I'm Kelly Bearden. We'll be coming back with more information. Everybody stay safe out there. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.